Yeah, so as you can see, talking about discrimination, just want to let you know that Muslim women are pretty like any other normal person. And Islam gave us like the right to work, the right to seek education, where it is mandatory for both men and women to seek education. And they gave us so these rights, like for example, so inheritance laws, and the right to use your money in any way. So women are not forced to, for example, if they are working and if they have money to pay for anything regarding even if for the house, they are not forced to help their husband. They can choose whatever they want to do or whatever they like to use their money. So back then, those rights were revolutionary. And so, again, for when I lived most of my life in Syria, which is considered the majority are Muslims. And there I continued my education. We had free education. I was working as a marketing assistant at a clothing factory, a French clothing factory. They had branches in Syria. So, women were working along with men. So life was pretty easy. So when I came here, people thought that I had a culture shock because, that's what they thought. And I told them no, where I used to live, it was a modernized country. Again, it was hard for me to leave my country and leave in because of the war. I don't know if you know what's going on in Syria in the past 6 years. There's a civil war going there, and which is why me and my family decided to come to the United States in 2012 because it was life-threatening to stay there. So when I came here, what was hard for me is that I had to leave a lot of my friends and relatives. That was the hard part. But being to integrate and adjust to my new life here in the United States, I'm grateful to be here, and thank God, maybe because I live in Connecticut, the people here tend to be more open-minded than other places. But I do have friends who wear a headscarf, and they, for example, I know a friend who lives in Ohio. She wears a headscarf, and she has received not death threat, but a lot of curses and through social media. And so thank God I didn't receive things like that. But for example, a few days ago on Saturday, ICON, the International Connecticut, where I work, we participated in a cultural exchange festival in Norwalk. And so I was there. We set up a booth and to let people know more about our organization. And so there was a person. He wasn't talking to me, but he was, saying in general that, we don't want refugees and we don't want immigrants coming into the United States. They should not be. They are dangerous people. We don't want you guys here. So they were generalizing. I don't know. I was like, I hope, but he was saying the comment towards me. So I was a bit. Thank God I had my other colleagues with me. But for me, I was shocked. This is the first time I've ever been in such a situation. And I thought that, if I always thought that I'm prepared to defend myself because I speak English pretty well. So I can I am able to defend myself. But then when that happened, I was speechless. I was like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? I was scared if I say more to him, then, he will attack back. And but what made me sad is that we have a lot of refugees who are coming from Middle Eastern countries, such as who are Muslims, such as who are coming from Syria and Iraq, and most of them they do cover their hair. So what are they going to do when they go through the same situation? So that's what I'm really worried about. So again, that's I would like to show another video also. It talks a little bit about Islam more and how Muslims in America, how they contribute here to their communities, and how they view terrorist groups such as ISIS.
So what are some of the stereotypes you've heard people say about Muslims?
Muslims are terrorists. Muslim women are oppressed.
Go back home. You're a foreigner.
Not all Muslims are terrorists.
but all terrorists are Muslim.
Muslims are un-American.
They're all Arab.
The Quran teaches hate.
Such stereotypes are widespread, but are they true?
In recent years, there have been dozens of polls conducted worldwide and right here in the United States. American Muslims are an integral part of our society.
You see Muslims in media, in comedy, in acting, in medicine, law, engineering, business. They're engaged in politics. They're engaged in starting their own organizations that are benefiting the community. So Muslim Americans are really tapped into almost every sector imaginable.
They're job creators. 24% have started their own companies. American Muslims are largely middle class and mainstream.
American Muslims are like other Americans, with comparable percentages watching entertainment television, following professional or college sports, and recycling household materials. The U.S. government estimates the American Muslim population at around 7 million.
There are Muslims who have immigrated from literally every other part of the earth. It would be impossible to talk about Muslims in America without talking about African Americans. So you have an extremely diverse pool of ethnic and national diversity.
They are as likely as the average American to attend a religious service, as likely to say that religion is important to them. They're actually slightly more likely to believe that people of other faiths have a chance at salvation. According to Gallup research, American Muslims are the most likely faith community to condemn attacks on civilians. They're also the least likely faith community to sympathize or say that it's ever justified to attack deliberately killing civilians. Now that's the reality of American Muslims. Unfortunately, the perception among many in the public is totally different.
Only 27% of Americans polled have a favorable view of Islam. Some might say that the reason for this is obvious. But is it?
Most Muslims reject violence, but that's not what the West media focuses on. So you can have hundreds of Muslim leaders denouncing violence, and that would never make it to the newspapers or on TV or anywhere.
Certainly it's a fact that there are some Muslims out there who want to do harm to others. But I've seen nothing to suggest that Muslims as a community or Islam as a religion is more likely to lead to people to violence.
Terrorism in America is sort of almost a melting pot. There are a lot of different types of motivations that drive terrorist attacks in the United States. Very few of the attacks that have actually been carried out have been motivated by Islamism. I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding that Muslims are carrying out attacks and they're always targeted at Christians or at non-Muslims, but it is much more often the case that their actual victims are Muslims.
According to the National Counterterrorism Center, Muslims worldwide are the main targets of extremist violence and are between 82 to 97% of those killed or injured in terrorist attacks. Then why are Muslims mainly presented as the perpetrators of terrorism rather than as the primary victims? Why don't more Americans view average, faithful Muslims as the true representatives of Islam rather than the extremists?
If you feel that other group is threatening, you impute all kinds of vice and evil. You reduce them to stereotypes, and often you use the most extreme member of the other group as representative of that stereotype.
What fear does to people, according to neuroscience, is it increases their acceptance of authoritarianism, conformity, and prejudice.
The result is the marginalization of Muslims in America's civic, social, and political life.
Society is telling them that they're not a part of the American society. They're not a part of the fabric of this country.
In a 2010 Gallup poll, almost half of all American Muslims reported experiencing racial or religious discrimination in the past year. So let's ask again, are these negative perceptions fair? The extremists quote from the Quran. Isn't terrorism in the Quran?
The Quran does speak about terrorism, but it uses a very specific word. In Arabic, it's called irjaf. And this word irjaf means crooked action to instill fear and violence in people, but that fear and that violence is based on hypocrisy. So according to the Quranic paradigm, terrorism or extremist behavior is really an acting out of hypocrisy.
Muslim scholars have written a letter to the leader of ISIS. We are appealing to him by using Islamic knowledge and Islamic teaching to say, this is not what Islam is all about. What he is teaching does not represent the teaching of the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran says that whoever take a life of innocent person as if have taken the life of all humanity, and whoever save one life as if have saved the life of all humanity.
The Quran clearly says there is no compulsion in religion. You can't force anyone to convert to your beliefs, whether they're political beliefs, economic beliefs, religious beliefs. The Quran obviously is very clear about the sanctity of life and respecting everyone's freedom to practice. Whoever wills, let them believe. Whoever wills, don't let them believe. Clear cut.
One of the first things that any student of the Islamic tradition learns growing up is the prophetic tradition that says, show mercy to those on earth and the one in the heavens, or God, show mercy to you. And that's really the cornerstone of what Islam teaches.
Out of my childhood, having grown up as the only Muslim American family in a strong conservative Christian community, I found that for us as children and young people, it didn't matter the color of our skin or the faith that we followed, that we came together based on a shared love of God, our shared values.
1/3 of American Muslims report working to solve a problem or improve a condition in their community. 75% have donated to or assisted local charities.
Muslim doctors decided to establish a compassionate network of medical professionals who provide medical services and healthcare free of charge to everybody, to a person of Islamic background, a Jewish, a Christian, or a person who have no faith.
There are more than 20,000 Muslim physicians in the United States, and they operate over 100 free medical clinics around the country.
So we're actually seeing Muslims respond to Muslim extremists with the teachings of their own faith, basically debunking their actions, their extremism with the core teachings of what Islam really is. What happened in North Carolina when these 3 Muslim students were killed was really traumatic for the Muslim community. And instead of just responding with a statement of condemnation, they responded with love. And a campaign came out of that to feed our local hungry. And within 1 month, we have nearly 300 mosques, Muslim student groups hosting canned food drives around America to feed their hungry neighbors.
When there have been national disasters, American Muslims have helped provide relief. Answering the call of their faith, they serve and sacrifice for their fellow Americans in many ways.
Muslims are involved in every aspect of the United States of America.
They're not the problem, they're the solution.
Fear has become toxic. We have to unite.
Islam really is a cohesive, complete paradigm of way of life. And when you take it all, then it makes sense. You can coexist with others. You can build wonderful things. You can collaborate. You can be part of civilization.
One of the most beautiful stories that I love of the Prophet Muhammad is his first statement upon entering Medina after suffering years of persecution in Mecca. His first words to the people of Medina were to spread peace, to feed the hungry, maintain ties with your family, and to pray at night when others are sleeping. And if you look at that statement, it's pretty amazing because the first 3 things are all about your relationship with other people. It didn't say to feed the hungry Muslims, it didn't say to spread peace to Muslims only, but it's really about connecting to humanity. Before even your personal connection with God, it was your personal connection with other human beings.
Every day, the beliefs of American Muslims are called into question.
I mean, I think left. I'm going to keep it open for questions.
If anybody has a question for Dima, please go ahead. We've probably got 10 more minutes or something before we're done.
Yeah.
So any questions, please feel free to ask her. Ask me. We're here for you. Questions? Okay.
Comments?
If there are no more questions, I would like to thank Dima. Dima has also been at a famous call away. I can call her at 2 o'clock in the morning. She'll be at 2:05. Let's hear from Mustafa too.
Right. We thank you again for coming, University of Bridgeport. We'd like to thank Detective Papalucci for inviting us to talk, and I hope that we change a little bit of the stereotype ideas about Muslims. We hope that we represent ourselves, the way we are, truly what we are, and we thank you again for giving us a chance to talk to you and reach out to you. Appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That ends 911 pop with you guys, so I just want to say, hey, I just found out that some of you are veteran police officers. I'm calling you rookies, so thank you for not shooting me. Anything you need, again, that number is still available for you, 911 pop for the rest of the week. I'm going to cut you loose now. I want to say thank you, good luck the rest of your way, and have a great career.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.